All right, today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and frankly confusing figures out there, the Sapphire Jester. This is a character who is all about destruction, but somehow is absolutely essential for creation itself.
So, let's start with the central contradiction that just defines this guy. He's described as a whirlwind of kinetic nihilism, an agent of total dissolution. Okay, sounds bad. But then, in the same breath, he's called a fundamental pillar of creation. I mean, how does that work? This isn't your standard bad guy. We're talking about a living, breathing, cosmic paradox.
And, that really brings us to the single biggest question we have to answer here. How can absolute, total destruction be a necessary part of creation? How can something that wants to end everything be the very thing you need for anything new to begin? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
All right, so let's get into our first section here, a paradoxical judge and the principle of necessary collapse. The key thing to get right away is that the Jester isn't just some agent of random chaos. No, he represents a cosmic principle, something the lore calls necessary collapse.
So, what on earth is necessary collapse? Well, think of it like this. You can't build a skyscraper on a weak foundation, right? You have to demolish the old, rotten structure first. That's this principle, but on a cosmic scale. It's the idea that all the unearned values, all the comfortable lies we tell ourselves, they all have to be shattered before anything authentic and truly meaningful can be forged in their place. The Jester? He's the sledgehammer. He's not just a villain, he's the ultimate test.
And this is where we see he kind of has these two faces, two distinct identities. You've got the redeemed judge, that's the guy on the ground, the systematic annihilator in the silent city. Then you've got the great annihilator. That's the bigger, more abstract cosmic force. We're going to look at both, but let's start with the more hands-on, terrifying version first.
Okay, Section 2, the Gospel of Erasure, the Architect of Oblivion. This is where that big cosmic philosophy we just talked about gets very, very real and very terrifying.
So, his whole operation, his authority, it's all built on something called the Gospel of the Belly. And what a name, right? It's described as a doctrine of profound anti-theology. Basically, it takes every single idea you might have about spiritual worth, about the soul, about having a purpose, and it just flips it on its head, completely inverts it.
And at the heart of this gospel is this one word, luch. It means spiritual fuel. So in the Jester's world, you, your hopes, your dreams, your love, your very identity, you're not a person. You're just luch. You're literally just energy to be consumed by some higher power. You're not an end in yourself. You're a battery waiting to be drained for the system. It's a chillingly utilitarian view where existence itself isn't a gift. It's a fundamental error that needs correct.
And his method for this, it's brilliant in a horrifying way. It's a two-pronged assault. See, he doesn't just show up and start blasting. No. First comes the rhetorical conversion. He's a master manipulator. He talks to you, convinces you that freedom is just too heavy, that the burden of choice is unbearable. He breaks your spirit until you are literally begging him to erase you. And only then, once your will is shattered, does he move on to step 2, the physical annihilation, using what's called the physics of oblivion.
Even his look tells the whole story. Those light-absorbing sapphire robes, they're not just for show. They're a perfect metaphor. They pulse with the stolen vitality of everyone he's annihilated. He literally wears his victims. Light goes in, nothing comes out. He is a walking, talking, spiritual black hole.
So you have to wonder, right? Where does this kind of fanaticism come from? Why is he so devoted to this gospel of nothingness? Well, to get that, we have to look at his own origin story. And it turns out it's an inverted hero's journey, a dark mirror of the very thing he's trying to stamp out. And this is the big reveal, the real twist in the lore. The Jester, he wasn't always like this. He was once a striver himself. He had that same spark of will, that same drive to exist, that he now hunts down and extinguishes in others. He was once exactly like the people he now judges.
So what happened? He was transformed in what's called the furnace of rebirth. But you gotta understand, this wasn't some kind of glorious ascension. It was a complete erasure. It stripped him of his identity, his will, everything, and remade him into the perfect weapon of the void.
And what came out of that furnace was something totally new, a dark counterpart to Wotan's Overman. They call him the Ubermensch of the grave. So if the Overman's power comes from the will to create new values, The Jester's power comes from the exact opposite, a perfect, unwavering, fanatical commitment to the ultimate value of zero. Nothing.
Okay, let's move on. The chaos and the will. Because all of this, his origin, his methods, it all points toward his true cosmic purpose. And you can only really get it when you see him in relation to his absolute opposite, the creator figure, Wotan.
They are, for all intents and purposes, uncanny mirrors of each other. The Jester is the universe's great no. He is the beautiful, chaotic agent of pure destruction. Wotan, on the other hand, is the sovereign yes. He is that storm of disciplined will that creates, that builds something new right out of the ruins the Jester leaves behind.
I mean, just look at this breakdown. It's a perfect dichotomy. Function, the Jester destroys values, Wotan creates new ones. Philosophy, the Jester has the will to end, Wotan has the will to endure. And their stance on life, the Jester offers you freedom from consequence, Wotan insists you take on the burden of consequence. It's like one is clearing the cosmic stage and the other is stepping onto it to perform.
And this quote, this one just nails their dynamic perfectly. Wotan is the truth that smashes the comfortable man, while the Jester is the laughter that confirms the smashing was deserved. Wow. So Wotan is the harsh truth that shatters your illusions. And the Jester, he's the one laughing in the background confirming that, yeah, you totally had it coming. You deserve to have those illusions smashed.
All right, our final section, the indispensable shadow. This is where this whole philosophical dance gets put to the ultimate test. And it's not a physical battle, it's a battle of wills.
So here's the absolute test. The Jester confronts Wotan, but he doesn't bring his weapons. He doesn't bring his army. He tries to convert him, not with force, but with something far more dangerous, a single, fatal drop of doubt. The goal is simple and profound. Can he make the creator regret creating?
And Wotan's response, or rather his non-response, is what's so incredible. His power is shown not by some epic counterattack, but by what he doesn't do. He doesn't defend himself, because why would he? He's already heard the Jester's critique 1,000,000 times inside his own head and integrated it. The Jester's nihilism isn't some new threat, it's the very abyss Wotan built his foundation on. So he doesn't argue, he doesn't fight, he just endures.
And faced with that, the Jester doesn't get angry, he doesn't throw a tantrum, he acknowledges it. And he makes this chilling, final promise. I see your creation, it is real, and I will be back to test every brick in it endlessly. That's not a threat of future victory, it's a statement of his eternal role. He's found something real, and now his job is to test it forever.
So what's the big takeaway here? The Sapphire Jester is that indispensable shadow. He's the cosmic pressure cooker. Without his relentless, nihilistic pressure, any meaning that gets created would be fragile, it would be unearned. It's his absolute darkness that makes forging genuine light not just meaningful, but possible in the first place.
And that leaves us with one final thought, a question to turn back on ourselves. If this whole cosmic drama is true, if greatness really does require a test, then what's the Jester in your world? What is the necessary shadow that's out there testing your will and in doing so making it real?